Parker Schnabel started this season under enormous pressure. The expectations were higher than ever, and the competition was fierce. Gold prices had skyrocketed, creating a frenzy across the Yukon, and every miner was feeling the heat. Parker knew this season had to be different. From the very beginning, it was clear he was aiming for something massive, something that would define his career. The season opened with high stakes, as the first surveys of the new cut revealed readings far beyond what anyone expected. The density chart spiked immediately, showing that the ground held unusually rich pockets of gold. The crew exchanged glances, unsure whether this was a mistake or a sign of something monumental. Parker himself was shocked, but cautiously optimistic. Even the geologist was impressed, noting that the soil composition indicated the presence of a next-level deposit. From that moment, the atmosphere in the camp changed. The air buzzed with anticipation, and the crew knew they were standing on ground that could potentially rewrite the history of Parker's mining career. Machines were mobilized quickly to maximize the opportunity. Parker understood that in mining, timing is everything. Every day, every hour counted toward reaching the massive goal he had set for the season. The first soil samples brought a stunning sight. Flakes of gold glimmered under the sunlight, confirming what the sensors had already suggested. The crew could hardly believe what they were seeing. Parker's instinct told him that this was only the beginning. The excitement mixed with tension as everyone realized how high the stakes were. If they mishandled this high-pay zone, the season could slip away. Yet, if they succeeded, Parker would be on track for one of the most profitable seasons in gold rush history. But nature was not going to make it easy. Constant rainfall and unstable soil created immediate challenges. Within days, the crew faced the first major setback when part of the west wall collapsed. The dozer operator barely escaped in time, and everyone was reminded how unforgiving the Yukon could be. Hydraulic lines burst, machines broke down, and haul trucks slid in the mud, creating dangerous conditions. Parker was under pressure from all sides, yet he remained calm and focused. The crew noticed that his leadership had become more determined than ever. Parker knew that success would require not just luck, but precise execution, strategy, and sheer determination. Despite these challenges, the team pushed forward, running shifts around the clock. Parker personally took control of the excavator during some of the most critical moments, demonstrating both skill and leadership. The risks were enormous. Running double cuts simultaneously was considered one of the riskiest moves in mining. Fuel costs doubled, machinery was pushed to the limit, and the crew faced constant danger from unstable walls. But Parker's vision was clear. If there was a massive gold layer below, he needed to reach it before the season slipped away. Every decision, every risk was calculated, and the results began to show. The first major cleanup after the initial chaos brought results beyond anyone's expectations. Flakes of gold shone in nearly every bucket, confirming that the high-pay zone was real. Numbers steadily climbed: 100 ounces, 150 ounces, 220 ounces, and eventually 302 ounces. The crew was stunned. For Parker, it was a moment of validation. Months of effort, strategy, and risk were paying off. The gold was pure,
dense, and valuable, with a high purity rating of around 91%, a rarity for Yukon gold. The morale boost was immediate. The crew's confidence soared, and Parker's leadership became even more respected within the camp. Everyone understood that this cleanup wasn't just a lucky find. It was proof of a season that could be historic. With the high-pay zone established, Parker doubled down on operations. The AI mapping team provided further insights, identifying dense clusters below the bedrock. The geologists confirmed that these clusters were not typical, but indicated an extraordinary concentration of gold. Parker realized that a jackpot lay beneath their feet, hidden but accessible if they pushed their machines and manpower to the limit. The crew, energized and focused, attacked both cuts with precision. Weeks of careful excavation and non-stop machine operation began to produce staggering results. The weeks following the first big cleanup only added to the suspense. Each cleanup seemed to surpass the last. Parker and his crew worked tirelessly, moving massive amounts of dirt, running water, and constantly monitoring the high-pay zones. Every tray of gold brought a new wave of excitement and disbelief. 150 ounces became 220 ounces. 302 ounces turned into 350, and eventually one cleanup shattered expectations at 420 ounces. The sheer amount of gold flowing from the ground left the crew in awe. Parker's calm demeanor hid the reality of the pressure building behind the scenes. Every ounce represented not just money, but months of planning, labor, and calculated risk. The Yukon is not forgiving, and Parker's success only increased the tension. Rival miners, especially Tony Beats, were watching every move. Tony's crews were running efficiently at their own sites, and social media buzzed with comparisons between Parker's explosive streaks and Tony's consistent operations. For Parker, the competition was a constant reminder that gold could not be taken for granted. Every setback, every machine failure, and every collapse of a cut could drastically change the season's outcome. Yet, Parker's strategy remained clear: find the richest pockets of gold and maximize production before anyone else could. Machines were pushed to the absolute limit. Excavators worked longer shifts, haul trucks were loaded beyond normal capacity, and the wash plant ran constantly. Parker himself often took the controls during critical moments, guiding machines with expert precision. The intensity was exhausting, but the rewards were worth it. Each cleanup revealed more gold than the last. By week 3, one single cleanup hit 320 ounces, shattering previous records and putting the entire Yukon on notice. Crew members began to whisper that Parker's season might be historic. Even Parker allowed himself a rare moment of pride, realizing that months of planning, strategy, and risk-taking were paying off in the most spectacular way possible. As the streak continued, the pressure escalated. Parker knew that consistency was the key to hitting his season goal of 10,000 ounces. Machines required constant maintenance, crews needed direction, and the ground itself demanded attention. Unstable cuts and unpredictable soil behavior meant that even a small mistake could result in a collapse or equipment loss. Parker's team adapted quickly, learning how to manage water, mud, and ice while keeping production high. This adaptability became a defining feature of the season, showing why Parker was considered one of the most skilled miners in the Yukon. Meanwhile, the rivalry with Tony Beats intensified. Tony's operations were impressive, efficient, and consistent. Social media and mining forums constantly compared the two camps, creating a sense of competition that added extra pressure on Parker's crew. Tony maintained a calm and collected image, emphasizing consistency over big swings. Parker, on the other hand, thrived on high-risk, high-reward strategies, pushing double cuts and running machines constantly to maximize gold recovery. The contrast between their approaches became a key narrative of the season, keeping fans engaged and constantly speculating who would come out on top. Even with the gold flowing, challenges continued. Government inspectors arrived unexpectedly, checking claims, water usage, and environmental compliance. For any miner, an inspection could stop operations immediately. Parker's camp held its collective breath as inspectors examined every detail. Reports, permits, and drainage systems were scrutinized for hours. A single mistake could mean a shutdown, halting months of work in an instant. Parker's leadership during this period was critical. He guided the inspectors calmly, ensuring everything was documented and legal. When the inspectors finally left, a wave of relief swept through the camp, but the tension remained. The threat of future inspections hung over every operation, reminding the crew that mining in the Yukon was not just about gold, it was about navigating risks from every direction. Despite external pressures, Parker's cleanup streaks never slowed. The numbers continued to climb. 250 ounces, 280 ounces, 302 ounces, 350 ounces, and then the extraordinary 503 ounces in a single week. The crew was euphoric. The gold was shining, abundant, and pure, with a remarkable 91% purity rating. Nearly $1 million in gold had been recovered in just 1 week, and the Yukon community was buzzing. Fans on social media called it Parker's greatest season ever. Even rival crews acknowledged the incredible performance, with whispers that Parker's operation was on another level entirely. With each successful cleanup, Parker's confidence and strategy became clearer. He understood the patterns of the high pay zones and knew where to focus his crew's efforts. The East Cut continued to surprise, revealing deeper layers of rich gold that nobody had anticipated. Every discovery reinforced the gamble he had taken by running double cuts, pushing machines to the limit, and betting on the high pay zones. Crew members who had been nervous at the start now worked with renewed energy, inspired by the massive rewards appearing on the cleanup tables. By mid-season, Parker had already recovered over 1,140 ounces, worth roughly $4.5 million. The streak was so incredible that even the production team admitted on camera that many viewers would refuse to believe the numbers.
Brought new tension, new excitement, and new stakes. For Parker, the season was no longer just about hitting numbers, it was about legacy, proving that skill, strategy, and determination could overcome the harshest conditions the Yukon had to offer. As the season moved into its final stretch, every day felt like a race against time. Parker knew that the gold in the Yukon would not wait for anyone. Weather, soil conditions, and machine breakdowns could strike at any moment, potentially undoing weeks of hard work. But the signals from the East Cut continued to surprise. The layers beneath the surface were richer than anyone had imagined. Tiny flecks became dense streaks, and streaks became entire seams of gold that seemed to go on endlessly. Every shovel, every bucket, every tray brought another jolt of excitement to the camp. The team worked tirelessly, running shifts that stretched late into the night. Parker himself often took the controls, guiding excavators with expert precision, ensuring that nothing went wrong during these critical moments. The risk was enormous. Double cuts, unstable soil, and malfunctioning machines created a pressure cooker environment. One wrong move could mean a collapse, equipment loss, or injury. But Parker's leadership and careful planning allowed the team to manage the chaos, transforming what seemed impossible into remarkable productivity. Week after week, the gold totals kept climbing. 250 ounces became 280 ounces, then 320 ounces. Each cleanup brought the crew closer to a goal that no one had dared to dream of, hitting the $14 million mark in a single season. The excitement was infectious. Crew members cheered, clapped, and sometimes just stared in disbelief as the gold kept coming. Even Parker allowed himself a small, quiet smile during the heaviest cleanups, recognizing that all the risk, pressure, and sleepless nights were finally paying off. But the stakes were not just in the gold. Rivalries and external pressures added layers of tension. Tony Beets continued his consistent operation, amassing gold at a steady pace. Social media and mining forums exploded with comparisons between Parker's high-risk, high-reward strategy and Tony's steady approach. Fans debated, commented, and speculated, wondering who would ultimately dominate the Yukon this season. For Parker, every ounce recovered was not only a victory, but also a statement. The gamble of pushing double cuts, running machines to their limits, and focusing on high pay zones was paying off spectacularly. Challenges continued to emerge. Government inspectors made unannounced visits, checking claims, water usage, and environmental compliance. Each inspection carried the risk of halting operations, potentially erasing weeks of hard work. Parker managed these situations with calm authority, guiding inspectors through the camp, showing all required permits, and ensuring that operations remained within legal limits. Each visit added tension, but Parker's focus never wavered. He knew that keeping the operation running smoothly was the key to hitting the historic goal. As the season progressed, the cleanups became almost cinematic. Buckets were overflowing with gold, mats were covered in dense flakes, and the purity consistently hovered around 90 to 91%. Every day, Parker's crew felt like they were discovering treasure in real time. Even the most experienced miners on the team admitted that they were in awe of such consistent, high-grade cleanups.
That this season felt different, almost unprecedented. The combination of skill, strategy, and sheer determination was creating results that were reshaping expectations for what could be achieved in a single Yukon season. The climax arrived with a series of cleanups that no one could have predicted. One week, a single cleanup hit 503 ounces, nearly $1 million in value. The excitement was electric. Crew members shouted, cheered, and even hugged each other in disbelief. Parker stood quietly, taking in the magnitude of what had just happened. The cleanup was not just a financial milestone, it was a testament to the entire season of hard work, risk, and perseverance. Parker's calm, calculated leadership had guided the team through disasters, machine failures, and intense pressure, culminating in a historic result. With each subsequent cleanup, Parker edged closer to the $14 million mark. Every ounce added to a growing total that would shake the entire mining industry. The team worked around the clock, running machines at full capacity, carefully monitoring the cuts, and constantly adjusting strategy based on the latest readings. Each day felt like a countdown to history. Fans and rivals alike followed every update, watching as Parker's goal moved closer with each cleanup. Finally, the season concluded with Parker achieving the unthinkable: $14 million in gold. The crew erupted in celebration. Months of hard work, sleepless nights, high-risk decisions, and relentless determination had culminated in a historic season. The Yukon mining community was stunned. Social media exploded with praise, disbelief, and admiration. Parker's $14 million season was more than just numbers on a scale. It was a story of perseverance, strategy, and the ultimate triumph against all odds.
As Parker and his crew reflected on their historic $14 million season, the reality of their achievement began to sink in. Months of tireless effort, sleepless nights, and high-pressure decision-making had all led to this moment. But the story of the season was more than just the total gold recovered. It was about the strategic brilliance that Parker had displayed, the resilience of his crew, and the extreme conditions of the Yukon that tested them at every turn. Even after hitting the massive numbers, Parker didn't become complacent. He knew the Yukon was unpredictable. Every season brought new challenges, whether it was unstable ground, machine failures, or harsh weather. The team had faced collapsing cuts, broken hydraulic lines, frozen bedrock, and equipment failures, yet each problem had been met with quick thinking and adaptation. Parker's leadership ensured that the crew stayed motivated even when the conditions seemed impossible. The legacy of the $14 million season extended beyond just Parker's camp. Other mining crews in the Yukon started recalculating their strategies. They analyzed Parker's methods, his decision to run multiple cuts simultaneously, his careful monitoring of high pay zones, and his willingness to take calculated risks. The industry was forced to acknowledge that Parker had set a new standard, one that would influence mining tactics for years to come. Every miner in the region knew that a new benchmark had been established. Fans and viewers were equally mesmerized. Social media platforms were flooded with reactions to the cleanups. Clips of the 503-ounce single-week haul went viral, with fans expressing disbelief at the sheer scale of Parker's operations.
Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and YouTube comments were filled with discussions, comparisons, and predictions about what Parker would achieve next. For many, it was inspiring to watch someone maintain such precision and focus while managing extreme physical and mental pressures. But Parker's triumph was also a study in teamwork. The crew's performance under pressure was extraordinary. Every cleanup required precise coordination. Operators maneuvered massive machines, survey teams monitored gold-rich zones, and support staff managed water pumps and machinery maintenance. A single misstep could have meant losing hours or even days of progress. The season's success was a testament to the synergy of a well-oiled team, guided by a leader who balanced authority with trust in his crew's skills. Interestingly, the season also highlighted the role of technology in modern gold mining. Drone surveys, AI-based ground mapping, and advanced ground-penetrating radar systems provided Parker with information that previous generations of miners could only dream of. These tools helped pinpoint the richest zones, anticipate potential collapses, and make real-time adjustments. The combination of technology and human expertise proved to be a formula for unprecedented success. Despite all the accolades and excitement, Parker remained grounded. He continued to emphasize the importance of safety, caution, and respect for the land. While the crew pushed machinery to its limits and worked long shifts, Parker always reminded them that equipment could be replaced, but human lives were irreplaceable. This balance between aggressive mining tactics and a cautious approach to safety was another reason the season ended in success rather than disaster. By the end of the season, the full scope of Parker's achievement was clear. Not only had he reached $14 million in gold recovery, but he had also solidified his reputation as one of the most innovative and daring miners in Yukon history. The season had proven that careful planning, strategic risk-taking, and relentless determination could overcome even the harshest challenges. The $14 million discovery was more than a record. It was a story of triumph over adversity. Every collapsed cut, machine failure, and weather-related setback had been a test, and Parker's team had passed them all. The lessons learned from this season would influence Parker's decisions in future seasons and inspire new miners to adopt innovative strategies. It was clear that the gold-rich land of the Yukon still held secrets, and Parker's ability to uncover them with precision raised the bar for everyone. As the season closed, Parker and his crew looked toward the next year with renewed energy. The ground still held hidden treasures, and Parker knew that the lessons learned this season about persistence, teamwork, strategy, and patience would be crucial for whatever challenges lay ahead. The $14 million season wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Yukon mining, one where innovation, courage, and relentless determination would continue to push the limits of what was possible. Even in the quiet moments, as the crew packed up, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment that went beyond money or numbers. This season was a legacy, a benchmark for the future, proof that with focus, skill, and courage, nothing in the Yukon was impossible. Parker's name would be remembered not just for the gold, but for rewriting the very definition of success in one of the world's most challenging mining landscapes. The following weeks after the historic $14 million mark were a whirlwind of activity, planning, and high-stakes mining. Parker knew that resting on one massive season was not enough. The Yukon is a place where the land can change in minutes, and fortune favors those who stay alert. Every cut had to be examined carefully, every machine calibrated, and every team member's skills put to full use. Parker and his crew had already proven that they could achieve extraordinary results under pressure, but they also understood that the margin for error was razor thin. One wrong move could erase weeks of work or even cause serious accidents. Parker's attention to detail became almost obsessive. Every morning began with a meeting where the latest readings from the high-pay zones were analyzed. Maps were spread out on tables, charts reviewed, and machine schedules plotted with military precision.
The crew listened intently, knowing that these sessions determined how the day would unfold. Parker's decisions were always backed by data, intuition, and experience. No opportunity to uncover rich gold was ignored, and no potential hazard was underestimated. The team faced challenges almost daily. The intense productivity of the previous cleanups had pushed the land to its limits. Certain cuts began showing signs of instability. Rocks loosened unexpectedly, water levels shifted, and even small machinery failures became serious obstacles. Parker, however, treated these not as setbacks but as tests of skill. The crew learned to adapt quickly, rerouting machinery, shoring up weak walls, and adjusting workflows on the fly. Each challenge reinforced the importance of teamwork, focus, and communication. What set this season apart was the unpredictability of the Yukon terrain. While Parker relied on maps, drones, and AI software to locate gold, the ground itself often refused to follow the predictions. Some days the pay zones delivered more than expected, with gold sparkling through the soil in quantities that made even Parker blink in disbelief. Other days, hours of work yielded very little, testing the patience and resolve of the team. Yet despite these fluctuations, Parker maintained an even temperament. His calm and methodical approach gave the crew confidence, even when the stakes seemed impossibly high. The psychological element of mining also played a major role this season. Tony Beets continued his operations on multiple sites, producing steady results and setting a constant benchmark. The rivalry between Parker and Tony was not just a numbers game, it was a mental battle. Every cleanup Parker achieved was scrutinized by his competitors, and every delay or machine issue became a point of comparison. Parker's team felt this pressure, but it also fueled their determination. They worked harder, faster, and more efficiently, knowing that consistency and excellence were essential to staying ahead in the Yukon. Parker also focused on nurturing his crew. He understood that motivation, morale,